So it begins. The beginning of Uncuffed, episode number 7. Is it lucky? Yeah. Number 7 has always been a lucky number. And so I'm going to try to carry that mark forward with this episode. We're coming off a very, very strong one with my sit down with my pops. And, it was a really, really good one. I, should have let you guys know that my dad went on to become a police officer in Davenport, Iowa, one of the first black police officers in that city, and went on to have a 25 plus year career. He did a great, great job, and he had helped set the stage for me, because I always knew that I was going to be a cop. So, once the episode was wrapped up, I was getting hit up as far as people wanting to know a little bit more about institutionalized racism. Because I'm in California, and I'm getting those type of messages from people out here, and because California has always been known as one of the most diverse, most liberated or liberal states out there. It's kind of hard to kind of picture that forms of racism would be out this way. And so yeah, I have a couple good examples from my days as in the law enforcement field. I think is gonna really kind of pave the way to kind of show what some minorities have to go through to get where they're trying to go. However, but before I do get back on that, I have to address something. Did anybody see this Antonio Brown crap this past weekend with the rapping at the whatever show that was and everything out there? I mean, I'm still in shock, but I guess I shouldn't be, because I think everybody has seen some of the most ridiculous things ever from Mr. Brown. I'm going to say Mr. Brown because I'm doing everything I can to show nothing but respect for the guy. But he is blowing it if it hasn't been blown up already. And not just, he's just, as a human, he's blowing it. But man, add the fact that he's a former NFL player, which is my background. Put in the fact that the dude's black, which of course is, relates to me. And he was a wide receiver. And he's wore the number 84. So it's just, for me, it's just kind of like, dude, what are you doing? But I kind of feel like I'm to blame, though, too. And the reason why I say that is the couple guys that I work with, they're going to really enjoy this because they got a kick out of the story when I told them. So the reason why I think it's my fault is when Antonio Brown did what he had to do to get out of Pittsburgh, which I thought was dumb. I mean, anybody, I think, would love to play for that coach. Coach Conlon just seems like just the best coach to play for. He just, that demeanor of his is something that I would just freaking give a leg to be able to have a chance to play under him. He just seems like a legit dude, where it doesn't matter who or what or anything about you. If you could play ball and help us win games, get in there. And that's cool. So he was handed the world, and but for whatever reason, he just started losing it. And what he did was do everything he could to get kicked out of Pittsburgh. So he did. Then this dude goes and he gets signed by the Raiders. So his first year with the Raiders was a year that I was still on the police force, and for years prior to that, I would always get asked to come out to visit the rookies when they had their rookie camps and talk to the guys and kind of give them a little bit of information as far as like how to. What to expect, how to be pros, how to carry yourself out there in the streets and out in the community, what to look for. If you get pulled over for whatever violation, how to respond, how to be answer questions and stuff. It was really good. And then, a lot of times it was the rookies, and then it'd carry over to, when the full team would get there too. So I would, especially when the team was located in Oakland still, I would always get asked to come over there and be part of some type of function or some type of event where I was either acting as a police officer, helping to kind of answer some questions, or I was acting as a former alumni and not in uniform or anything like that. And I was just doing whatever type of fundraiser events or Q&As with Raider fans and all that. This particular time, I was asked to come out and speak with the full team when they went out to Napa, with the start of training camp. So I didn't really realize at the time that Antonio showed up in a freaking hot air balloon and some type of silliness like that. But that should have given me the heads up, as far as like what this guy was going to bring to the table. I thought that actually that was part of the show, make an appearance and all that, and then you move on. Then you act like you're a freaking NFL professional football player on that type of elite level, and that was nothing further than the truth. So we get up there. The guys have their practice. We weren't part of the practice yet. We were just we were going to be meeting with them in the big meeting hall, and like I said, talking to the kids and stuff, and the men, I guess. I say kids because it was before it was the rookies when we talked to the rookies, and now it's the full squad. So you can't call those guys kids; those grown men. But you would expect that they would be acting like, highly mature individuals, and most were. But there was a loudmouth in the back, just was like causing a big disturbance as we're up there, and that's when I had like three other Napa county sheriffs with us because I wanted them to be kind of stand by, and they know their city more than I would. So if they had any questions that they want to pose to the Napa Valley sheriffs, one was a sergeant. Heck yeah, we had all the avenues covered, and they were in uniform and all that stuff. And most people, like I said, were giving us nothing but respect. I remember more than anything, Derek Carr sitting up front, and he was so focused, so dedicated, so just in tune to what we were saying. And I've always known that about him because when he was a rookie, him and Khalil Mack, I remember them being down there. I came and I talked to the kids for their rookie camp then too. So I just remember Derek over the years, and nothing has changed about him other than he's just gotten more focused and more mature, I guess, and everything. And that was him sitting up at the front, paying us nothing but respect. But some knucklehead kept yapping in the back, and I didn't know it was Antonio at the time. But then I'm just like, holy crap, that's Antonio. He's cracking jokes and just being a fool. And so, in order for me to kind of like maybe ease the tension and kind of smooth over the divide, I said, "Hey, Antonio, what's up, man? How you doing back there?" And he just said something, and I said, "Hey, look, you're wearing my jersey, right? I need you to go out there and represent." And this dude said something so disrespectful. He said something like, "Oh, shoot, man, you can kiss your jersey goodbye," or something like that. And everybody started laughing, and I didn't catch it at the time. I was like, and I looked around, and the people who were up there as the guests with me, they just gave me that look like, "Whoa, man, he just dunked on you." And I'm just like, wow. That was not the reaction that I was expecting. And I laughed it off. I said, "Oh, okay, man, whatever." And then so we tried to continue going on with our presentation and all that stuff. We did the best we could, but like I said, Antonio was still in the back, just acting a fool. And so when I thought about it, the whole thing, when we ended our presentation, a couple of people came up and they were very respectful. They had some questions and they wanted to ask. I remember, I think at the time, Jonathan Abrams came up and he was respectful. Derek as well came up and gave us, some props and stuff. And then, they all walked out and all that stuff. And I just was bothered that whole night by Antonio Brown and what he did. It was just very disrespectful. By no means am I like a true, Raider legend like the, Jim Ottos and, Calvin Branch. I said Calvin Branch, but Cliff Branch. Those guys, Freddie Bolitnikoff. I wasn't on that level, but man, shoot, I busted my butt out there. I'll be darned if I have gonna have some new Raider come on in, year one on the squad and act like that. So people give me a bad time because when I tell that story at the police department when I went back to work, everybody started kind of watching because it was shortly after that where he started getting in trouble, and I don't even think he made it out of the training camp without anything working horribly for him after that day. And people were pulling me aside like, Kenny, did you put one of those hexes on him? And I don't know, maybe I did, because in reality, I'm from the South. I was born in Columbus, Mississippi, man, down there in the deep South, and I was raised by some people who true Cajuns, and down there in Louisiana as well, and maybe they gave me a little bit of some little inner spirit where I would just say, oh, okay, get them. And ever since then, just been nothing but silliness, nastiness, and just ultimate downfall. He ends up getting kicked out of Oakland now, and then same thing in New England when he tried to go there. Same thing, obviously down in Tampa, and just a nightmare, But I can blame myself all I want, but I'm really kind of being funny with that and all that stuff, because if it is my fault, I'm really just wanting him to save himself. This is ridiculous, man. I mean, come on now. Doesn't he have where's Auntie? Where's Grandma? Somebody needs to show up where he's at and ignore his yelling and whatever. I ain't nothing wrong with my brain. I'm fine. And no, y'all need to leave me alone. And just grab him by his ear, take him to the nearest therapist, to be honest with you, because there's something going on with them that, I'll leave it at this. I did this short film. It's actually a mini documentary film called The Snake That Almost Got Me. And it's about, I'll send it out to everybody. I think you'll like it. It starts off with live clips, and there's actually live clips of Antonio Brown. So he's, at the time, there's clips of him as a Steeler, and in one in particular, it's kind of captures your attention because he gets his freaking head blown off pretty much against the Bengals, and he gets knocked out. So, you can kind of take it from there. And then we go on and we show kind of clips of some of the very bizarre and just outrageous situations Antonio's found himself in since. And then fast forward to real life. You can take it from there. Look at him. I mean, it's amazing what's going on with him, but he refuses to, listen to people. His own agent was trying to tell him, dude, Antonio, please be concerned about your health. That's all we want. We don't care about the millions of dollars and stuff that's you're throwing away by how you're acting with these NFL teams. You're not okay. So, I've the whole thing with the snake that almost got me was, it kind of covers and touches on the very, very hard topic of CTE in former athletes. And, in it, you have just backstory information as far as what to look for and what usually ends up happening to a lot of these football players who just can't get the type of help that they need. You know, and a lot of it, they end up committing suicide. So, you know, I 100% hope that's not what's going to end up happening with Antonio, obviously. But until he faces the facts that he's not okay, I think we're going to continue to see some of the most bizarre stuff out of a human being ever devised continue. So, all right, come on now. I'm talking to Antonio's family. Somebody save this man. So, all right, so we're gonna switch up and everything. You know, so all right, institutionalized racism. You know, I mean, Uncuffed has kind of set a standard. You know, do we like talking about issues like that? You know, politics and real life. You know, traumatic situations like racism, you know, when you're talking about COVID, mix all that in. It's not fun to talk about. You know, it makes life very, very unbearable in a lot of cases and stuff like that. But, you know, again, if we don't talk about it, if people don't keep asking about it and, you know, trying to, not embrace it, but just kind of embrace the fact that, hey, change has got to happen. It's going to be a slow process. You know, so institutionalized racism or strategic racism, or you know, it's whatever you want to call it. It still exists, and it takes a toll. So. Let me use my days as a popo. A couple different examples that I have. Okay, that kind of cover that. So, picture, you know, you're a 7, 8 year vet on the streets. You know, you feel good, you feel confident in your skills. You've been all over the different shifts and stuff, whether it's the very crazy high octane, fast paced swing shift where nonstop craziness from bank robberies in progress that you interrupt and the chase is on, or the foot chase is on, or there's a shooting, or you know, crazy situations. I remember one time where we go and we to a bank robbery, and you know, it wasn't actually a bank robbery at that time. It was just a suspicious person who went inside the bank, walked out, went back into the bank, walked out, and he just kind of made everybody nervous. And he was wearing a trench coat. So you know, they call us. We see the guy. When I get there later, they had already had him all stopped and detained, and they're talking to him. He's handcuffed and all that stuff, but he's not really answering the questions very well. And you know, and then as they're pat searching him and all that stuff, one of them says, "Gun!" And you look, and he has like a sawed-off shotgun, like tucked in his trench coat and all that stuff. And he just had this look. I'm not laughing, but he just had this look like, "Oh shit, oh, they found it." And so, yeah, he got obviously, you know, assisted down to the ground, and then. He was already handcuffed, but obviously we had to get that gun and secure the gun and all that stuff. And thankfully, he didn't try anything else. He knew he was caught, so he went to jail for being in possession of the firearm and you know, several other charges and all that stuff. But you know, I mean, but I've seen all that stuff at that point. I've gotten in my chases and all that stuff myself. So I'm feeling really good about knowing my job description, how to patrol. I know my beat. You know, if you know anything about the city of San Leandro, it's broken off into like 8 sections, 7 sections, I guess, 7 beats. Things might have changed. I haven't been there in a while, but you know, but I knew my beat at that particular time because I used to live out there in that area. So I knew how to patrol it. I knew it's one of those beats where it's mostly commercial. So when the 9 to 5 jobs in, things like slow down tremendously. I mean, people were shut down their businesses, and and then they head home, like their warehouses or whatever, their workshops or whatever. They head home. So all it really is at that point is just patrolling and keeping your area safe and all that stuff. Conduct some traffic stops at night, because that was the time I was working the graveyard shift. So that was at 9 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning. So you're doing an overnight shift. And I was on that shift for a while with that beat. So I knew all about what I was supposed to be doing. Apparently, there was a white lieutenant, I'm not going to say that person's name, that matched up with a white sergeant who, and I'm not going to say that person's name either, but neither one of them, well, let me go backwards. The sergeant dug me, but the lieutenant didn't. And now that trumped whatever the sergeant had to say, because now if the lieutenant wanted to go after a particular person, shoot, as a supervisor, as a sergeant, you kind of have to follow that lieutenant's lead, because he outranks him, or she outranks him. So in that particular case, it was bad for me to have that type of matchup. That lieutenant on that shift matched up with that sergeant, because that particular sergeant wasn't the type of person who would ripple the waters. He was, if the lieutenant wanted to jam somebody up, that sergeant was doing it without question. Okay, yeah, what do you need, or what did you do? He didn't even have to ask that. He just, what do you want me to do? And then it was all bad for that officer from that point on, and that was the case with me. So I remember one night just kind of just monitoring, doing my beat. All of a sudden, that particular night, it was a quiet night, nothing really going on. But then all of a sudden, someone gets on the radio, another officer gets on the radio, is like, I need an officer to respond to my location, and gave a street intersection, even though that person was on a completely different beat, downtown beat, and nowhere near mine. But that officer was on my beat and said, I need an officer to respond. I need officer to respond to whatever intersection at such and such and such and such out here. I just had a male run from me in a stolen car. I have the female passenger detained, but the male just got done running, and he's hopping fences, going north on whatever. And so it's on my beat. So I immediately go out there, and I'm zipping. I go and I pull up, and I see the officer, and this officer commands everybody's respect, especially mine. He's a legit officer who's stood up for me millions of times. Very solid officer. So I knew right off the bat that that he handled the situation the way he felt comfortable with. Although, not very many other people could get away with that, meaning doing a traffic stop on a stolen vehicle by themselves without putting it on the radio, and taking one of the people in custody and then letting the other. Well, actually, he tried to take them both in custody, but the other dude just ran. He did all that on his own. There's just no one else at that time who could have done that and been okay. But anyway, I get there, I see he's okay. He has the female passenger detained and handcuffed, and I think in the back of his car, like he said. Then he points out where the male went. So I immediately, and I say, hey, you good? And he said he's good. Other units are coming and responding, code 3. And so I'm going to where he said the guy was last seen. As units arrive on the area, I'm able to see or hear where this dude is. And I put units, whatever intersection, whatever block, and we lock that person in. He's completely locked in. I know for a fact we have him, So everybody gets unseen. The lieutenant, the same lieutenant who I'm telling you about, and then the sergeant and all that. They set up their command post, and and everybody's there, and it's great. It's great, because number one, our primary officer is okay. He has one in custody in a stolen vehicle, uh, and no one got hurt. All we have to do now is, search and, you know, get the other outstanding suspects when we know he's in the perimeter. So now I kind of take over because the primary officer is kind of he's tied up now because he has a body, and now it's my beat. So I kind of and I'm the one that set up the perimeter and got everybody where they needed to go, and I'm kind of trying to okay, let's go. We're ready. Let's go get our teams. Let's call them out and let's go. Let's bring them in. And for whatever reason, the lieutenant, I don't know, that particular lieutenant who had some out against me did not want me to shine or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what else to think about. He didn't want me to shine. So rather than us putting our teams together, arrest team together, going and calling this guy out and bringing him in custody, this lieutenant gets on the radio, says, no, instead of doing that, we want you to, and he's talking to me, we want you to break down the perimeter. We got him identified. He lives at this particular house, which is also in my beat. Go to that house and see if he's there. I'm just like, what? Oh, wow. I don't even know if I tried to reason with that or not. I think I did something like just either took my time or tried to call somebody else. It's like, why would we do that? I hear him. He's right there. He's not at the house. If we go, why would we do that? That just made no sense whatsoever to do that. I mean, the guy's right there. So regardless, it was a lost cause and I would have lost anyway. So that's eventually what we did. I had another unit go with me to his house. We made contact. The dad answered the phone, or the house, I'm sorry, answered the door. And we go in and he says, yeah, no, he's not here. It was like, okay, can we just check? Yeah, go ahead. And we look and he's not there. Sure enough, he's not there. And now he's gonna, and so we leave. And we break up the perimeter, and the officer who had the female in custody took her to jail. I'm sure in his report he wrote the driver of the car was identified, and then it was what they call submit the report for complaint. To try to get a warrant for that person, who's the outstanding person for the driver. And we wrapped everything up. That was it. That's how that call ended. So anyway, fast forward 2-3 months down the road, and now it's time for your yearly evaluation and stuff. So I had forgotten all about that call. So I get it. It's my turn. It's a different sergeant at that time. I can't remember what the other sergeant, if he got reassigned or he got promoted. I can't remember, but at this time it was a new supervisor, but he was tasked with giving everybody their evaluations. So it's my turn. He calls me in and he sits me down. He's like, "Okay, here's your evaluation. Let me know what you think." And I'm reading it, and I get to the part where where the supervisor says, Shed did not show the type of proactivity and aggressiveness we would expect for someone of his years on. In one call in particular, someone did a traffic stop on a stolen vehicle on his beat. One outstanding suspect got away and not taken into custody that night. And this is what it says. I was expecting Shed to put together an attempt, a very strong, detailed attempt and plan, operations plan to go after this guy and take him into custody, whether it meant to do follow-ups and do videos and meet with people and do stakeouts and do all these different things to eventually bring this suspect into custody. As it stands right now, that suspect was not taken into custody for that particular crime that was initiated by another officer on his beat. And I just said, what? And it was just the rest of the evaluation was similar to that on all different levels. I'm just like, this makes no sense. And it was very, very heartbreaking, and very frustrating. I let that supervisor know, and he was kind of surprised, like, wait a minute, why are you so upset? Because they don't really see me that upset all the time. That time, I didn't hold back. I thought that was BS. And I let that supervisor know. And, to me, he got put in a really kind of, crappy situation because he didn't know anything about all that stuff. Every time that I worked with him on his shift, his other shift prior to getting put on that one, he knows me. We get down together all the time. He loves my work product. So that was just as surprising to him as it was to me. So, and I try to explain. I'm so, I'm not even going to try to explain it, but this is not indicative of how that my year went. So in the end, I have so much respect for that supervisor, that he calmed me down. He's like, the only real way to, right this wrong is to go out there next watch and to show your butt off. And I said, you're right. And I'm just like, I'm going to write this down for me, please, sir. I said, I can tell you right now, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this. I'm going to get this going. I'm going to get my 10851 pin again. I'm going to do this and this and this, all this next coming watch. And I did all that. Everything I said that I was going to do, I put goals on that at the end of that evaluation and turned it into them. Everything I said I was going to do, I accomplished. And just because I was pissed. I didn't have to do all that stuff. I mean, shoot, I've earned my stripes. I've 7-8 years on, man. I mean, I was highly respected. I did my stats. I was never one of those officers who went out and just pulled people over and just jamming them up and making arrests over foolishness or silliness just to get stats and stuff like that. That's just not how I rolled. But when you get a target on your back, if you're not out there doing all that stuff, they'll get you one way or another. So, but never once did they ever address the officer who initiated that stop on that stolen vehicle that night by himself, and tried to take two people into custody without ever putting it on the radio. Never once did they address anything to that officer as far as like officer safety issues or anything like that. Nothing was handled that way. Only person who got in trouble that day was me for not apparently getting the guy in custody. So, that's one example of institutionalized racism. And so it's unfortunate, and it's not just me. At that time, if it wasn't me having to go through all that stuff, I can name 5 other officers who were minorities at that time who were going through similar events. It's sad to say, but I'm telling real life stories and stuff. I remember back, around that time we had 4 new officers come in. All transfers from other departments, all coming in around that same time. 3 were white males and 1 was a black male, and they all came in at the same time. It states in our policy that you can't get any lateral assignments until you've been at their department over a year and off probation. I can tell you without a doubt that 3 of those officers who I'm just talking about all became field training officers, which is a lateral assignment, and they were only like 10 months transferred, and that was it, and that was outside of the stated policy, and then the black officer got nothing. And if you bring it up to anybody like, hey, how come this person didn't get anything? Because you just asked that casual question to somebody. Well, he never verbalized that he wanted anything. But how did these three know how to verbalize to what to put in for? Because if they go by what the policy says, they can't even get anything anyway. But here, all three of them are field training officers, and then shortly after that, one became a detective. Shortly after that, another one became a TAC unit officer. Another one became a range master, and still, the black officer got nothing. It was so bad for the black officer that black officer transferred back to where he came from. You know, so institutionalized racism. Uh, I can't make this stuff up, y'all. I mean, I could sugarcoat it, but I'm not going to. No, I'm not going to. I want somebody to call me up and say, no, that's not how it happened. Oh, okay. All right. Well, all right. I'll tell the story again. Tell me step by step what happened then? Why did this happen like that? I mean, what am I missing to help me out? That's why I'm bringing these stories up. I'm sure some of the officers who I worked with after listening to my podcast, they're going to know who I'm talking about, and they're going to know who I was referring to, and then they're going to say, they're either going to agree with me or they're going to say, I don't know about that one, and that's great. I want them to, because I want to not believe that that's what it was about. Why wouldn't I? It can't be what it was about, right? So anyway. That's number one. I have another one. So this one takes a little bit more setting up. Okay, so example number two. So one day, I have to go. Actually, I got to go back to my first days on the streets to set this one up. Finish the academy, come on in, and then now when you finish your academy, you go on to your police department, and you have to take part in like a 16, 17 week field training program, all right, where you're with your field training officer, hardcore field training officers is what I remember. I mean, God, I loved my field training officers for the most part. Just standing there and just watching them, just automatically knowing how to handle a situation, and you're fresh out of the academy and you have no clue, and you're watching these guys knowing on instinct how to take down a criminal who's coming at you or running from you, what to do, get on the radio, rather than chasing after them, stay with this person, put it out on the radio instead of going the other route. Oh, man, I didn't think about that. That is easier, all these things that you have to learn as a police officer. It's as a new police officer is mind blowing. It'll have your head spinning. That's why you have to be as solid as they come to be a field training officer. But this one, it was no big deal. So when it's not crazy, this particular time, I was with the field training officer, and we would, when it was nice and quiet, this particular field training officer liked to read, right? So whether it was the newspapers or, just updates and stuff like that online. So we would go to the library. I thought it was great because, at random, things are going to be nuts where we're running back to the car and we're zipping after somebody and the chase is on. But for now, let's go and just kind of feed our minds, and just kind of at the same time, I have reports that I have to do. And then that officer would go and read the newspaper and all that stuff. It was, very multidimensional because it would just always keep your brain active. You're constantly trying to feed your brain with knowledge and information. I thought that was fantastic. But as beautiful as I just painted that picture, when we walked in, we saw an older white male walking out, and my training officer and those two immediately they knew each other, so they hugged and said hi and embraced, and it was just a good moment. But this man never looked at me at all. I'm standing right there, never shook my hand, never even looked at me, never had acknowledged me in any way. But those two just kind of like had a blast. It seemed like he was happy to see my field training officer and very gracious and all that stuff. Found out as we left, that my FTO said that's such and such's dad. And like I said, people are probably going to recognize who I'm talking about. I'm not going to say any names, but but when I say such and such, that person, was a San Leandro police officer. So, all right. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Didn't know that, and it just stood out to me how maybe he just blew me off because he knew I was a rookie and there was no real point to acknowledge a rookie. That's just how it is, I guess. So so fast forward later on, I'm still being trained, I guess, whatever, and then you kind of see that person. I remember seeing that person again, and this time there was another trainee being trained, who happened to be white. And then when that particular individual saw this trainee, all of a sudden, hey, where are you from? And shaking hands and asking questions and giving them warm welcomes and all these different things. And at the time, it didn't really register that there was too much odd with that. At that time, the dude was an older male. I put him in his 60s or 70s and all that stuff. And, no big deal, I guess, when, kind of where I'm from. Yeah, obviously some of the older generational white males aren't going to be the friendliest. And, I've been in places where, at a golf establishment once and stuff. I remember going up to the bar, and this one white male just cut me off and went right in front of me and, got served by the bartender. And I looked at him and I kind of stuck my head and said, hey, how's everything going? You going okay? And he would not look back, would not even acknowledge me. And I even went to the other side to make sure he saw me, and he still ignored me. I was like, dang, okay. So those are the ones that, they make it very, very clear that they don't want to have anything to do with you. And you just know those people exist. You just kind of like, oh, well, and you move on. So that's kind of, I guess, how I was. I kind of, if I was affected at all, I kind of just like blew it off like, yeah, okay, whatever, man. I have plenty of friends. I have too much other stuff to be worried about anyway, other than you. So, but that sets the stage, because as I progress and I go off on my own, I get my own shift. I'm solo officer now, and years on, I start building my career, and I start building my years on and stuff, and just getting comfortable as far as like being a police officer, and then so as you progress in your police career, you go from shift to shift, you learn different things, and so you're pretty much all over. And then the people that you started off with, they get promoted, and then the same thing. They may be, put on the midnight, weekend shift and stuff when they first started out, when they first get promoted and all that. Or they may go here and there. That's just how, if people are familiar with law enforcement, that's how usually the police departments work. It just keeps things fresh. It keeps people rotating, and there's always new trainees who are coming in and stuff, so they have to find spots for them. So they may put that, or her, they may put that officer on a swing shift, and that means that there's only a certain number of spots in that swing shift. So someone who might have been on the swing shift for such a long time, they may get bumped. Then that means they go to another type of shift, and they may bump another person. And there's a lot of movement when it comes to your police departments and stuff. It's just the natural order of things and stuff. So I remember being put on a shift where this person, now they're a supervisor, and they're this person I'm telling you about who they said that's that person's dad. So now I'm on the shift where I'm being supervised by this particular person. And, I remember around everybody else, we're like the best of friends. But behind closed doors, there just seemed to be a little bit of dissension, I guess. I remember on one particular day, I go to I'm on shift, just patrolling and all that stuff, and I go. I'm on lunch, right? So I'm driving to the station to go have my lunch, and there was a call that was sent out. I was on lunch, so I wasn't uh, I wasn't sent to the call, but I was driving right by the area where this call came out, and it was basically just a group of young black males and females, meandering about in front of a building, not leaving, just be talking loud and just kind of causing a little bit of disturbance and stuff. And just, this building is right by the school. So anytime there's, schools out and all that stuff, kids are just, they have all that inner energy contained. Now they can just let it out because they're no longer in school, and that, so yeah, there might be a little bit more hyped up than normal and all that stuff, but that's not anything different than how I was. I remember when I was growing up in junior high school and all that stuff. So yeah, maybe and I'm quite sure that's what it was. But so I drive by this building, I stop, I see the kids, they're out front now, and they see me. There was no bad exchange or nothing like that. They just acknowledge, hey, shoot, there's a cop. All right, let's just walk away. And then they, without acknowledging me one way or another, they just, grab their stuff and let's head on out. And they just started walking away on their own. So what it was, so I cleared that call with our dispatch. You can dispose that call at the whatever location as adjusted. And then I said, show me back en route to the station for my code 7. So I drive, and dispatch acknowledges this copy, and then I drive to the station and have my lunch. And that sergeant that I was telling you about was working that night. So a week or so later goes by, and I get called into the office, and he calls me in the office. He has his witness and stuff, or another officer just as a witness, I guess. And so I immediately know something's not right. There's a tone that's going on here. It just didn't feel right. So they say, come on in and close the door. And I'm just like, okay, and have a seat. And I'm just like, all right. And then they say, this sergeant in particular said, hey, I got to ask you some questions and stuff, and you need to know that, some action may come about it, and we'll go from there. But I have to ask you a question, and so I didn't know how everything works. I knew I didn't do anything, so I didn't know what was going on. But the first things out of his mouth was like, "Do you remember going to a call at this location a couple days ago or whatever?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they said, "And you said that you told dispatch that you adjusted the call." And I'm just, oh, yeah, I did. And it's like, really? Did you get out? Did you go speak with the reporting party? And I was like, no. And then it basically kind of took a weird angle, okay. And then basically he was saying he didn't believe that I even went to the call and I cleared it, adjusted or something like that. And I explained to them, I didn't have to get out of the car. I pulled up, they saw me, and they left. I said, adjust the call, and I kept on going. And then when that sergeant realized that there wasn't anything there, they tried to ask me, well, did you pull into the driveway, or did you just stay where you were in the street? And I said, I stayed where I was in the street. I didn't pull into the parking lot of the building. I didn't have to. And that was another one they were trying to catch me on. Because if I'd said, no, I drove into the parking lot, they knew that I didn't. And then that would have jammed me up. And I'm just like, the whole time I'm just like, what is going on here? It was just a bad moment. And then in the end, they played it off he played it off like he was relieved. Like, oh, I'm so glad that's great. So, but just in the future, we're trying to, trying to expand our relationships with the community. So rather than just, doing it like that, go ahead and park the car and walk in and then make sure that the reporting party are okay. Was there anything else about it that we needed and all that stuff? It's like, okay, all right, well, you take, and they say, all right, you get back out there and hit the streets now. All right, sir, thanks. Then you walk out like, what the heck was that? And so that's indicative of maybe, maybe just that's how he was raised or whatever. That guys and girls, I guess, that look of my skin tone or whatever. I have no clue. And the reason why I can kind of say that it probably had something to do with my race on that particular one is because, fast forward another 6 weeks or 6 months, maybe a year or so later, now I'm working. That same person I'm talking about is working as well, out in the streets and stuff. San Leandro's a pretty big city. I think it's kind of spread out and all that stuff. So when I say out and about, I mean, just picture officers all over the place and no one's really like huddled up on each other. They have certain areas they got to patrol. So when I say when I'm working, I could be on the other side of the city, but obviously when you have the radio, you can hear calls going on, so you're really kind of connected that way. So you don't have to be in the same area, but with the radio traffic, where everybody is, and you can see on your computer where people's cars are as they're patrolling and all that stuff. So it's a well designed system. When it comes to law enforcement, it keeps everybody connected and intertwined with each other, so we can patrol a big city, which is not considered a big city by most standards, but when you're out there and you got a lot going on, it feels like a big city. Trust me. So anyway, so that night I remember a white officer on patrol working, and they got sent to what they call a suspicious circumstance call. So basically, on their beat, they got sent to a call where there was a construction site going on, whatever location. You got the construction people obviously tearing down the grounds and getting it ready so they can start cementing it or putting foundation down and all that stuff and getting things ready to build up for whatever building they're going to build. So, they got bulldozers and all those different things. So I guess they uncovered what they found or what they thought to be a skeleton bones, bones. So they immediately do what they're supposed to do. They stop everything and they call the police department because this could be a body. This could be a human body right here. So he gets sent to the call. He gets there. You can just hear it. I'm not there, or I can't see it or anything like that. But you can just hear it, and you can read the call, the details of the call on your MDT, your computer, and it basically says that construction sites during the operation, their demolition, they uncover what could be human bones. And I don't think anybody has to be a police officer to know what you're supposed to do if you come across a possible crime scene and a buried body. That's a pretty serious call, right? I mean, I think anybody can kind of understand that. So he gets there. I'm sure he's making contact with the people, showing them where the bones are. As that's happening, you don't hear much from him other than he's unseen. Now, all of a sudden, 2-3 minutes later, on the other side of the city, nowhere near this, one of the guys or girls gets into a chase. Some car, maybe it was a stolen car or something like that, or the traffic stop and they failed to stop, and all of a sudden, there's a pursuit going on, and it's going on all through on one part of the city. It keeps going. It comes around. It happens to end up close to where this scene is, this construction site is, where the officer is, but there's plenty of officers already assigned to the pursuit, and there's a policy that states how many officers can be in a pursuit or around anyway. So they had more than enough help and more than enough bodies, pretty much on this dealing with this pursuit. So all I remember is hearing that officer on the scene with the bones say, "Dispatch, I'm gonna suspend this call. I'm close to the pursuit. Show me a route." And now he's on his way to the pursuit and said, "Suspend this call that I'm on." So I'll just leave it at that. So now you hear this officer, in the area of the pursuit that ended up way away. They get the guy or girl, I can't remember, stopped, and then they get them in custody, and everybody goes what you would call available. Once the whole thing was all resolved, you hear unit after unit after unit saying, "Dispatch, I'm available. Dispatch, I'm available." And they're clearing the scene nonstop. You hear that same officer who was at that construction site say, "Dispatch, I'll be clear to pursuit. Show me available." And dispatch says, "Copy," because they're not paying attention to his other calls or whatever. So 3 or 4 minutes goes by or whatever, and nothing. And then finally that same supervisor who called me into the office and asked about me adjusting some call, gets on the radio and said, "Hey, whatever your name is that call at the construction site still holding?" And the officer says, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, can you respond back there, please, and see what we have?" And then he said, "Oh, okay. Dispatch, show me back en route to the construction site." Goes back to the construction site. Oh my God. So that's it. And for the life of me, I can't even fathom me doing that. All I know is just the officer was allowed to go back to the construction site, stand by, and then he called coroner and all that stuff and everything. And I don't know what ended up happening. I don't think it turned out to be a dead body or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it was. But nothing happened to that officer at all. Nothing. Not even like, "Dude, what are you thinking?" Nothing like that. He was allowed to go on about their day. Nobody said anything. The same lieutenant or the same supervisor who jammed me up for saying, adjusting a call, didn't say anything to him. He didn't get written up. He didn't get in trouble. Nothing. And that's how that went. Went on about his business, and then sooner after that went on to detective duties and stuff, and just got all these lateral assignments and stuff. It was just like, what the heck? That's how it worked. So he was part of the good old boy system. He connected well with them, and then and so what he did was okay. But what I did, which is my job, I get jammed up on that, and they were trying to trip me up on that. So, was he born with those type of harsh feelings towards minorities? Probably no. I think it went back to how he was raised. I mean, look at how his dad treated me. So good dude for the most right, but there was something in him that meant that I gotta jam minorities up. We can't let minorities take over this place. Somebody help me out. Explain the rationale behind that, because that was the beginning of a lot of bad tensions between me and this sergeant. And then I started figuring out what he was really, really up to, and not only just that supervisor, I started watching and just observing the way a lot of the others operated too, and it makes it so. This institutionalized racism makes it very, very hard to spot if you're not paying attention, because it rotates. 1 minute, that supervisor who you thought jammed you up, they're no longer there, and now you're having to get used to another smiley face and stuff, and you forget all about that other one. And then eventually this one backhand you some way down the road, and then you forget about all the other stuff, you know. So me being someone who, after a while, I started paying attention and learning this stuff, and I started getting pissed, because not only was I getting jammed up and all that stuff and had to go through hellfire to get simple jobs around that, my department, and maybe it's because it's a small department, and then kind of everybody's kind of feed and feast for themselves. Okay, but the unfairness was very, very easy to see. So it goes back to my claim that I said, on my last episode. Guys are going to have to stop being like that and kind of have a little bit more security in themselves and stuff. And it's another form of bullying, if you ask me. They don't do anything to someone they know will look at them like, if you do not get out of my face, it's on. Then they'll go to the minority who just kind of already knows that they're kind of like, a couple foot back anyway. And then those are the ones that they mess with. I don't know. I need to speak to somebody on that one. I'm going to, one of my upcoming shows, I want to have a guest on who can kind of, without being all sensitive and all defensive and all whatever. Dude, I'm more curious than anything. It's a part of life. It's all good. No one's thinking it's the downfall of the world. Racism is just a part of it. I mean, it's you have to figure out a way to push forward even with those type of odds. So, but while I have this podcast and someone made me name it Unccuffed, which was me, we're going to be going there. We're going to go there. We're not afraid to talk about issues that are kind of hard to talk about and all that stuff. If I saw that sergeant today, I would still hug his neck. I would still say, hey, what's up? I would not be bitter. I would not be anything, because in reality, I retired with a really, really, really good and very respectable police career. Anything that I kind of set my sights on, I was able to get. I felt I was a pretty fair and pretty strong field training officer. One of my other favorite assignments that I was finally able to get was evidence recovery officer. So basically, you go to crime scenes and murders and all that stuff, and I was eventually able to get on that team. The ERT, and that was a fantastic assignment. You have to, I guess, to be a police officer and be experience that to kind of know what I'm talking about. But picture being on a scene, a murder scene, for 17 straight hours with like 4 or 5 other officers, and you're processing the scene from start to finish, from outside, inside. And then everything about it, everything evidence-wise that needs to be recovered, we're not stopping and not leaving until we get all the evidence we need to solve that crime. You see some stuff that your mind is just not ready for. I remember going to a homicide where the auntie was beaten to death by her nephew who lost his mind one night and thought she was an alien or something, and then smashed her face in. And you just look, and I can't even really describe it, but just that poor woman, and you have to find a way to look through the actual body and figure out, okay, we have to start here and work our way outward to obtain all the evidence we can. Everything is very, very important to process. And my job was to not only assist with all that, but to package all the evidence up too. After they did photographs, my job was to package it all up and get it all into bags and stuff and label it and everything. It was a very, very exciting experience, one that I learned a lot from. It was these things are going to stay in my head for a while. So regardless of some of the odds and the obstacles that a lot of the police officers had to go through, by no means am I trying to say that minorities have it bad. There's many other races who aren't minorities, I guess, who have it bad too. You know, so that's just the way it works. All I'm saying is that it's unfortunate that it's that way. That it feels like it has to stay that way. It doesn't have to stay that way. There's very many relationships that could blossom if you just get rid of that element right there. You know, white officers are no better than any any officers who are from Thailand or anything like that. They're not. It's all about their mindset and their performance out there on the streets and their ability to relate, to have street knowledge and have book smarts and be a well-rounded police officer. You know, that's what's going to make police departments prevail. And the sooner departments as a whole realize that, the better off it's going to be. But you know what? I'm glad I got that out. Somebody asked me. Institutionalized racism, man. You know, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be really, really mad if once they listen to my podcast and they say, I still don't get it. I'm like, God dang you. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. It's been fun. It's been real. I had a blast. I look forward to the next time where we can do this again. And keep them coming. Keep up the topics and stuff like that. We're going to move into some other stuff as we go forward. The Raiders football season is about to kick off here and everything. And we're going to have fun getting ready to root them on. All right. So San Diego Chargers, Kansas City Chiefs, Denver Broncos. Look out, y'all. Silver and Black's coming. K-Shed out.